Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the webinar on asbestos for electricians, carried out by ourselves Select in conjunction with the Building Safety Group. Just a wee bit about the platform. Nobody can ask any questions verbally during the webinar, but if you have any questions to ask, down the bottom of the screen there's a wee question and answers chat there. If you want to ask any questions, you can do via that down the bottom there. Just to let you know, this has been recorded as well and is available to watch on Select's website at any time after the recording. Just who's myself, Robert McGugan. I'm giving the introduction for today's webinar. I've probably met a few of you over the years, spoke to you. By carrying out technical assessments, and also delivering the technical information today is Andy Harper from the Building Safety Group. Andy's the head of the CDM services and tech support manager for the Building Safety Group. Some of our members might not be aware of the Building Safety Group. I try and inform them of the Building Safety Group and who they are every time I'm out with them carrying out technical assessments. When I'm doing my technical assessments, and if those of you don't know me, there's my face there on the screen there. Okay. What a wee bit about the Building Safety Group. Well, Select and the Building Safety Group started working together around about 2018, and the Building Safety Group are the UK's largest not-for-profit construction safety group in the UK. It focuses entirely on the quality to ensure that they deliver the highest standards in health and safety and advice and guidance to their members. Andy will fill you in a wee bit more about that shortly. It's owned by the members, run by the members for the benefit of the members. Very much like Select, to be honest with you. Yeah, so they've got, obviously, Andy will go through their ethical, practical, consistent and transparent views. He'll give you a wee general overview of it, is what they do with regards to health and safety. Okay. Like I've said, they've been in partnership since 2018. Also with the Building Safety Group, the Building Safety Group gives Select members unlimited free access. It's included in your membership fees. Gives Select members unlimited access to online health and safety information portal, RAM software and safety advice. So that's another useful tool out there for our members that is free and available to use via the Building Safety Group's website. And like I said, it's delivered free as part of the Select membership. Okay. Well, I'll be passing you over to Andy, who'll deliver the technical content regarding today's asbestos webinar for our members. So, okay, over to you, Andy. You okay?
Thank you, Robert. As Robert said, my name is Andy Harper. I'm the technical support and CDM support manager for BSG. What that involves is support our members, including yourselves, in any area of construction, health and safety. And we are here to support and to serve you. Next slide, P4. Yeah, we've been around for sort of 50 years since the start of the Health and Safety Work Act. We do roughly 15,000 site inspections per year to 800 roughly members and our countrywide coverage, so all over the UK, except Northern Ireland where we use a subsidiary. Experts in construction health and safety and environmental welfare. We work very closely with the HSE. And we've got a unique insight into the construction sector because many people at BSG come from the construction sector, and we train lots and lots of people in this area. We've got 4 regional officer teams: Scotland in the north, London in the central, Bristol in the South Wales, and in the southwest. But we're divided into local delivery teams with safety advisors and managers within those local teams. Next slide, please. So, today's webinar. We're going to try and briefly describe asbestos and asbestos-containing materials to you and explain the health effects and risks from exposure to asbestos and the legal requirements. We'll expand on and explain the risks for electricians in particular, will give suitable information on where ACMs are typically to be found in electrical and related works, but run through the actions to take to reduce the risk of inadvertently disturbing ACMs. Describe the asbestos-related work with appropriate control that electricians can carry out, which will be deemed non-licensed asbestos work. We'll cover the use of the asbestos essentials and the HSE guidance. The HSE guidance is very thorough as far as the asbestos essentials is concerned. They spend a lot of our taxpayer money on putting these guidances together. But the other side of the coin is they will use those failures to use those essentials and the HSE guidance against us if we should get it wrong. And we'll also be discussing dealing with emergencies. So, asbestos is the greatest cause of work-related deaths in Great Britain. Around 5,000 people die every year from asbestos-related diseases, which typically take decades to develop and cannot be cured. As you can see from the slide, it's made up of tiny invisible fibers that can be breathed in or rest on your clothing. The problem being is that often we don't realise we've been exposed to it until it's too late. Okay, next slide, please. There are these two main types on the screen now. Obviously, crucidolite and blue asbestos, it's called blue asbestos, and andesite, which is brown asbestos, or an amphibole fibre, and that means the fibres are sharp and spear-like. They're hydrophobic and repel water, and products containing this mineral have good waterproof qualities. The problem with these fibres is when we breathe them in, their ability to go through our lungs and do damage is the problem we find. It doesn't take many fibres to cause us any problems, and theoretically, one fibre can cause a hideous amount of damage. As I said, they are very small. We're not going to see them. Next slide, please, Robert. White asbestos, which is the one which we are most likely to see, or chrysotile, is serpentine, and the fibres are sinuous and wavy and are woven to produce a fire-resistant material. But often, white asbestos and brown asbestos are mixed together to form the material where we find it. So you can have a panel or a section of asbestos containing material which have a mix of white asbestos and brown asbestos. So where is it? Where is asbestos? Where will we find it? It's any building constructed or refurbished before 2000. It may contain asbestos. Although asbestos was banned in 1999, many buildings were even refurbished in the 80s with asbestos containing material. And although it's been removed safely from many areas, most of this material is still in place. Hundreds of tons of this material in the UK. Next slide, please, Laura. So, types of training. Being aware of certain asbestos occupations, it's not just a legal requirement, it is also our best and first line of defence. Accidental exposure, especially for electricians, is the most likely occurrence for us. So being aware of asbestos is a key thing. It is a legal requirement. Next slide, please. Asbestos awareness training must be given to employees where it is foreseeable that their work will disturb the fabric of the building. And this will involve demolition, refurbishment, maintenance, and allied trades. So reasonably, that could count for all of that. The main thing is being aware of where the asbestos may be is one area, but if we know the asbestos is there and there are tasks we are involved with, then we will require training to ensure we are competent and able to do this. It's called non-licensed asbestos removal. Although we may not be removing it, just working with it, it does give us that type of training. So training must be given to those such as maintenance workers, supervisors, and anyone undertaking sampling and analysis tasks where it is known that they will disturb asbestos containing materials. It must be given in addition to any asbestos awareness training. There is some details in the later on in our slides where we give you the details of the training available to you by Select. But it's only certain tasks involving asbestos which we will be allowed to do. Next slide, please. The reason why we do this: 8 joiners die every week that we know of. Next slide. 4 plumbers die every week that we know of. And 6 electricians die every week. And to be honest with you, looking at the latest stats from the HSE, that is very conservative. I think many, many more electricians die from asbestos-related diseases than are reported. The simple reason being is that the death certificates sometimes don't declare the trade or give asbestos-related diseases as the final result of the death. It's sometimes other areas. Next slide, please. So, legally, what we must do if we're an employer or we're responsible for the maintenance and repair of non-domestic premises to assess and manage the risk from asbestos. Everywhere which has been built prior to 2000 must have an asbestos management survey carried out. This is due to the fact that Regulation 4 requires an explicit duty on those who are responsible to have assessments to manage the risk from asbestos. Next slide, please. So it's a legal requirement that information about the location and condition of asbestos containing materials within the building is available to contractors and tradesmen undertaking any work in the building. But this is only for non-domestic settings. Okay, next slide, please. Regulation 5, identification of the presence of asbestos. No employer shall carry out any work which exposes or is liable to expose any employee to asbestos unless either, next slide, they have carried out a suitable and sufficient assessment as to whether asbestos containing material, what material, and in what condition is present or is liable to be present in those premises. So, it was seen from these regulations there were clear duty holders. So next slide, please, Robert. The client or landlords of the premises or site being worked on have a duty to manage the risks associated with asbestos under the control of Asbestos Regulations 2012 with surveys and information. Employers, if applicable, so if you're an employer, you also have a duty to your employees under the Health and Safety at Work Act. But you also have a duty to ensure your own health and safety if you're an operative, as well as ensuring anything we do does not affect the health and safety of others. Clear duties. As far as the clients or the landlords, they must provide us with information and surveys. Our employers, if we are employed, need to make sure that we've done what we should be doing under the regulations. And also, if we are employees, we have a duty as well. And what that means by ensuring anything we do does not affect the health and safety of others. For example, should we blindly go into an area and disturb asbestos containing materials and it affects others, then we have broken the law as far as the Health and Safety at Work Act is concerned. Okay, next slide. So where? As electricians, where might we expect to find asbestos? Obviously, there are set areas where we would normally expect to find this. All right. The key is that most of these are covered by the asbestos essentials. There are areas where we know we might find it, and we would be capable of working in those areas or removing those particular areas under license, under non-licensed conditions. But we must have the training. We'll talk about the training separately. Other areas we might find it. Fuse carriers ourselves, backing boards. In that we can actually work in those areas with the correct training. Texture coatings. Where do you find them? Texture coatings were used to produce decorative finishes on ceilings and walls in the past. There have been various trade names such as Artex. Any texture coating applied before 1970 would have contained asbestos. Between 1970 and 1999, products that did not contain asbestos became available, and so texture coatings applied between those dates may not have contained asbestos. From 2000 onwards, no texture coatings would contain asbestos. So, definitely before 1970, between 1970 and 1999, it may do. The only way we would know that is by testing it. From 2000 onwards, we probably think that texture coatings will not contain asbestos. What do they look like? This is dependent on the particular decorative finish. Peaks or patterns they are hard and were originally white in colour, but have often been painted over. And they can also be covered over again with other Artex. Next slide, please. We all know what the Artex ceilings look like. These are in good condition. Next slide. But if we find anything like this, they should have been identified to us by the survey. They're in poor condition. So therefore, the survey produced by the client, landlord, or employer should tell us not to go in these rooms. The only reason we would go in these rooms is to work in there, and then we would need to be non-licensed trained. Next slide, please. These are the most dangerous areas for us, working in boiler rooms and other areas. Lagging insulation, mostly found in or on heating systems, such as around boilers or calorifiers and around pipework. What does it look like? This type of asbestos may have different appearances, but it's mostly a fibrous material which flakes and powders easily damaged. When applied to pipes, it often covered in a protective coating or painted or scrim, which can be any colour and make it more difficult to identify. How dangerous is it? This is one of the most dangerous materials containing asbestos. You are more at risk from breathing in asbestos fibres because disturbance of the lagging or insulation releases fibres very easily into the air that you breathe. Don't forget, when you walk into a boiler room, if the lagging and insulation have been damaged, those fibres may be still there, but as soon as you walk in, you will disturb the air and make these fibres, the term is called friable, so they become airborne. Do not attempt to work on this material under any circumstances unless you are an HSE licensed contractor. Next slide, please. So what's it look like? Asbestos pipe insulation normally contains chrysotile and amosite mix, but not always. And asbestos lagging generally exists in two forms: hand applied, hard set, they termed as, applied to pipes and elbows. Preformed sectional pipe insulation. I can't stress how easily damaged this material is over many years. And once it's damaged and the surface has been broken, fibres will continue to be released into the air. Next slide, please. Asbestos panelling around gas and electric meters. Often you'll find that people have worked in these areas and they may have drilled through this or altered it in some way, often releasing fibres as well. So caution is obviously paramount. Next slide, please. So this is the asbestos awareness e-learning available to you from Select. Recommend this as a starter. Obviously, the awareness side of things is being aware, as we all are, of asbestos, and it'll reinforce some of the messages to the app. But should you require to become involved in any area where you need to work with or disturb or remove anything along the things we've just discussed about, then obviously the correct training will be required. Next slide. And what the asbestos awareness training will tell you to do, what must you do? You need to stop whatever you're doing immediately. Tell other workers to keep away from the area and report your concerns to the supervisor or the person in charge of the site, if you like, or even the landlord or your customer. Next slide, please. Asbestos surveys. So one of our best lines of defence is also having the information from the client, landlord or site where the asbestos is. There are different types of survey. Next slide. The first one is management survey. This is a standard survey. Its purpose is to locate, so far as reasonably practicable, the presence and extent of any suspected asbestos-containing materials in the building, which could be damaged or disturbed during normal occupancy, but also, more importantly for us, including foreseeable maintenance and installation and to assess their condition. The key area is the fact that somebody's been there to look at this in advance of us being there. Management surveys may often involve minor intrusive work in some disturbance, and the areas inspected should include underfloor coverings, above full ceilings, ceiling voids, lofts, inside risers, service ducts, lift shafts, basements, cellars, and underground rooms. Only way we'll know where the areas that the management surveyors looked at is to read the report. And if we don't read the report and satisfy ourselves that the areas that we're going to have to access are okay, then we could walk into it. Next slide, please. The next slide is more to do with if we're doing refurbishment onto sites, or though we will be doing any demolition, they are called refurbishment and demolition surveys. Refurbishment surveys will be required for all work which disturbs the fabric of the building in areas where the management survey has not been intrusive. Demolition survey is needed before any demolition of work is carried out, but this type of survey is used to locate and describe, as far as is reasonably practicable, all ACMs in the area where the refurbishment work will take place, or the whole building if demolition is planned. The survey will be fully intrusive and involve destructive inspection, sometimes aggressive inspection, as necessary to gain access to all areas, including those that may be difficult to reach. It needs to go into the areas you'll be disturbing with the scope of our works. Next slide, please. There is a specific requirement for all ACMs to be removed, so far as reasonably practicable, before major refurbishments or final demolition. If we gain access to a refurbishment survey and the surveyor has said this material will need to be removed before any work is done in that area, we need to check that it's been done. Removing ACMs is also appropriate in other smaller refurbishment situations which involve structural or layout changes to buildings. For example, removal of partitions, walls, and units, etc. Next. So, what to do if we disturb this or discover asbestos. This is a section from one of the Asbestos Essentials guidance documents, and it describes how we should act in these situations. Your emergency procedure should include managing an uncontrolled release of asbestos materials into the workplace. Steps should be taken to warn everybody who may be affected, exclude from the area anyone who's not needed to deal with the release, identify the cause of the uncontrolled release, and regain adequate control as soon as possible. It's all laid out for us what we must do, but it will require training. To decontaminate yourself, you will need training how to do so. You can do it without training, following the guidance, but it's much more difficult if you've never been trained. Next slide, please. These are one of the asbestos essentials. This is EM7. It says using damp rags to clean surface or minor asbestos contamination. Anybody undertaking this cleanup, again, must be non-licensed asbestos trained. Okay. Next slide, please. This one is personal decontamination. If you're exposed to asbestos fibers accidentally, got in your clothing or in your, anywhere around you, you are expected to decontaminate yourself. Nobody's coming to your rescue. There's nobody to send in or pass you something. You're expected to do this yourself. The phrase is Johnny on the spot. If you're there and you're covered in asbestos, the last thing you will want to do is contaminate somebody else, and that's what will be happening. Right? It covers all the processes involved in decontaminating yourself in these situations. But again, you will need non-licensed asbestos training. Next slide. For example, cleaning with damp rags, using a patting action. You're not going to be in a position to wipe this off. You need to get a damp rag and dab yourself to remove the asbestos fibers. But it will need training, and you will need, if possible, the kit which is on that photograph. Okay, be clear about that. Next slide. So, as part of your membership of Select, you get access to all our information on the BSG Hub, including some of the stuff here. There's also access to us as advisors. So if there's anything else you wanted to ask, we are available, and it's free access. It's free safety advice as part of your membership. Okay, next slide. So, any questions?
I'll have a wee look here, Andy.
Okay.
Just to see if there's any on the chat. But while I do that, what I'll do is we've got a couple here that are quite kind of frequently asked from us, that you could maybe help us with. So regarding surveys, what do I do if it is a private rented house or domestic property, which a lot of our members will certainly be working in throughout Scotland?
Yeah, absolutely. The bad news is they are not responsible for their asbestos. And as a contractor attending that property, do whatever work it is you're going to be doing, then you are responsible to make sure that you take whatever steps you need to protect yourself and protect others. We need to make sure that if we're dealing with a house which is possibly having asbestos, we will need our training and asbestos awareness to look for the areas where it could possibly be. If we find that it looks as though it needs a certain amount of survey or possible testing, then we will have to arrange it. It's not down to the private homeowner. Unfortunately, they're not experts, and they are not duty holders under the control of asbestos regulations.
Okay. We've got a question here, Andy, from Stuart McClintock. I think he's just about to. He's got a question about exposed asbestos on a rental we have found. So I think he's just going to type in. He was
Okay.
just asking if he can ask the question.
Yeah.
So we've actually got a couple more come in here. So while Stuart's asking the question, we've got one from Kevin Griffin. Hi Kevin, how you doing? Do all pre-2000, year 2000 commercial buildings require an asbestos register?
Yeah, it's a management survey. Although people call this an asbestos register, what has to be done by the duty holder, so the landlord or the owner or whoever, non-domestic premises require a management survey pre-2000. They'll probably come back and say lots of them won't there's no asbestos present, but they still need it to prove it. Okay, they still need a survey, and people call that the register. And it is a register of what they found. But it is, as defined in the asbestos, control of asbestos regs, it is a management survey.
Okay. Hope that helps you out there, Kevin. We've got another question here from Alan Watt. And Alan's asking, we are asked to renew the asbestos awareness training for everyone each year by one of our clients. Is this a requirement to be renewed annually?
There's no the regulations say as required. It depends very much. If it's required by your client, then really and truly we would abide by that. But legally, you need to have asbestos awareness, the true asbestos awareness training once, and then every couple of years you need to do an adequate refresher. Is the way it's deemed. But I would recommend at least yearly you do the e-guide asbestos awareness training available to you from Select.
Thanks for that answer there, Andy, and thanks for your question there, Alan. We've got Stuart. Stuart's just going to come in and ask a question. I think Ian's going to bring him in to ask a question verbally. Hi, Stuart. How you doing?
No bad.
No
bad.
Can you hear Stuart there, Andy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear. Yeah.
That's fine. Right, we did an EIC on a property, and they were talking about new lights and stuff like that, and they went to look at the outside lights, and they wanted a wall light changed and a couple of soffit lights on the overhang. Right, this is over the Donald Camp. Robert knows what I'm talking about. It's ex-military houses, right? Yeah. And I looked at it and says that might be asbestos. So I chapped at my finger, and asbestos sounds more like glass and plasterboard does. It says that doesn't sound right. It says I'm not touching that. It says you get your landlord to check that out because I think that's asbestos. I'm not touching it, right? So the guy's a giant of the trade, and he says, "Aye, that's ACM." Looking at it, there's wee bits flying off. There's wee bits in the corner, heavy bits hanging off in the environment outside the front door of the guy's house, right? So took a photo, emailed the landlord, told them I had concerns about it.
Yeah.
And the reply I got from the landlord is, "Why are you bothering about asbestos and stuff like that? This has nothing to do with you."
It's everything to do with you, Stuart.
Aye. So I then give the tenant then said to the landlord, "I want an asbestos survey because I think this is asbestos as well because he's a joiner." The landlord says, "No need for that." And ignored them. I then went to the local authority. Right, because it's immediately dangerous, right? Because there's kids playing within 5 feet of this, 10 feet of this, right? They said, "Oh, we take this very serious. We'll look into it." The following day, nothing to do with us. Contact the health and safety executive. Right. I then contact the health and safety executive, and when I clicked the housing button, they said, "Oh, contact the local authority." I then phoned them up and says, "I've spoke to the local authority." They said, "Talk to you." I then emailed the local authority, the HSC, everything about it, including pictures and stuff like that. They wrote back saying, "We recommend you take a landlord to court regarding this. This is nothing. We're not taking any action."
Well, yeah, we do find that when you think that the regulator, as far as this requirement is concerned, would act appropriately, that they don't. It goes to show that there are still shortcomings in how legal requirements are not enforced.
Well, Robert knows me. I've got an appointment with my MP regarding this.
I would, Yeah.
Yeah, I've asked Robert knows me and I would do stuff like that. So my next step's the MP.
Yeah. Yeah, do that. Well, you're doing everything right, Stuart, to be honest. And you do, what you're legally required to do is to tell them, and then, if they're not prepared to do anything about that, you follow that as far as you think you should. To be honest.
Well, where does it? Well, obviously, there's not. Is there any liability with me after telling them about it? Because I've not disturbed it. I've not worked on it.
No. Make sure you've got in writing everything you've said to everybody, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got it in writing, and I also record my calls, so the call recording to landlords there as well.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely, you've got it. You're covered. It's not your responsibility. The duty holder in this situation is the landlord.
Yeah.
Right. He is. Unfortunately, it sounds to me that certain other regulatory duty holders are not doing their job.
So is the council meant to deal with this because it's in their area and it's open environment?
They have enforcement policies, enforcement procedures. Yes.
Right. So I should go back to the council and say.
I would go back to both.
Yeah. That's fine. I'll maybe do that then.
If you should you wish to use our name, say I've spoken to a health and safety consultancy who I have access to, and they have insisted I contact you again.
How much is an asbestos survey on this place?
An asbestos survey can cost. Well, it depends how big it is and what areas are going to be surveyed.
Only the overhang. I'm only interested in the overhang outside the house.
Yeah, probably. I would say under £500 for a sample and take a sample and then get it tested. Under £500.
If it was £100.50, I'm taking the landlord to court because he's not paying his bill now.
Right.
But if it was £100.50, I'd paid it myself and added to the evidence to prove he's a bad landlord.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying £500 because I'll not get that back.
No, that's right. No, that's right.
Right, that's fine. That's all I want to ask. Okay, right. Thanks for your help.
You're welcome.
Cheers for that question, Stuart. Thanks for that. Can I ask a question, Andy? It's regarding switchgear, fuse boxes.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen a couple of images on the PowerPoint there regarding flash pads. I've come across them many a time, and I used to work in a lot of commercial buildings. They're still obviously found in domestic electrical switchgear as well, but I come across them every day when I was on the tools. So obviously I was doing kind of maintenance, fault finding type of thing. So I was maybe replacing fuses, fuse wire. But what if our electricians were going to be doing a planned consumer unit change or a planned distribution board change, and they'd identified that these electrical switchgear contains the flash pads or flash guards, as they were known as? What should the procedures be for that?
It's a non-notifiable, non-licensed removal. So therefore, whoever is going to be removing it will need to be adequately trained. So it's asbestos awareness plus non-licensed asbestos removal specific to the task, and then you follow the details within the asbestos essential task sheet, which is available on the ATC website.
And obviously that will have cost implications on disposal of that.
Yeah, it would have to be disposal, but there's guidance then within the asbestos essentials on how to dispose of it.
Okay.
Right.
Well, thanks for that, Andy.
Okay.
Thanks for that. I'll just have a wee look on the question and answers again there.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's all been covered, Andy. Okay. I think everybody that joined has who I had to ask a question has asked. Okay. Yep, I think that's time for us to finish then. Okay. So thanks very much, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers for that.
Thank you.
Good. Right, thanks for attending, everybody. Thank you. Bye now. Bye.